My name is Sarah. I'm 34 years old, and the proudest moment of my life happened in front of 3 empty seats. I stared at them from the graduation stage while the dean read my name. Sarah Bennett, Master of Nursing Administration. The crowd applauded politely. Cameras flashed. Families stood cheering for their children. Some people held giant bouquets and balloons. One girl in front of me cried while hugging both her parents. But the 3 seats I reserved for my family stayed empty. Row D, seats 14, 15, and 16. Mom, Dad, my younger brother Tyler. Empty. I smiled anyway because that's what I'd trained myself to do growing up in my family. Pretend disappointment didn't hurt. After 12 years of night shifts, student loans, overtime, and exhaustion, I had finally earned my degree. I worked full-time at the hospital while studying during weekends and overnight breaks. There were nights I slept in my car between shifts because driving home wasted time. Dad used to laugh whenever I talked about school. "You're too old to still be studying," he'd say. "At your age, people should already have their life together." Meanwhile, Tyler was 31, unemployed for the 5th time, and somehow still finding himself. Guess who my parents supported financially every single month? Still, when graduation invitations were mailed out, I sent them one anyway. Mom sounded excited on the phone. "We wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart." That sentence replayed in my head while I crossed the stage alone. After the ceremony ended, families crowded together for photos outside the auditorium. I stood near the fountain clutching my diploma while trying not to cry. "Dad calling." I answered immediately. "Dad? Where are you?" "Oh right, your graduation thing," he said casually. "Thing?" I swallowed hard. "It started 2 hours ago." "Yeah, we couldn't make it." I closed my eyes. "You couldn't make it?" "Tyler had a situation." "Of course he did." "What kind of situation?" Dad sighed like I was being difficult. "His car got repossessed." I actually laughed because it sounded unreal. "You skipped my graduation because Tyler lost his car?" "He needed emotional support," Dad snapped. "Family comes first." The irony hit me so hard I almost choked. "I am family." There was silence for a second. Then Dad said the words that changed everything. "Speaking of family, Tyler's behind on payments. We need you to lend us $8,000. I thought I heard him wrong. "What?" "8,000, he repeated. "You've got that hospital money now. Your brother's struggling." I stared at family celebrating around me while my father asked me for money before even congratulating me. "No, we're proud of you." "No, sorry we missed it. Just $8,000. "You skipped my graduation," I whispered. "Oh, don't start being dramatic." Dramatic. That word followed me my entire childhood. When Tyler crashed Dad's truck at 16. Boys make mistakes. When Tyler stole money from Mom's purse. He's under pressure. When I worked 2 jobs to pay my own tuition. Stop acting like a martyr. I looked down at my graduation gown fluttering in the wind. Every achievement in my life had happened despite them, never because of them. "I'm not giving Tyler $8,000. Dad's voice turned cold instantly. "After everything this family's done for you?" I almost laughed again. What exactly had they done for me? Because I remembered buying my own school supplies at 14. I remembered paying rent at 19. I remembered Tyler accidentally using my credit card. I remembered every holiday where my accomplishments became invisible the moment Tyler walked into the room. Dad continued talking. "You're selfish, Sarah. Always have been." The words should have hurt. Instead, something strange happened. I felt calm. Just done. 34 years old, standing outside my graduation ceremony, I finally realized something. No matter how much I achieved, my family would only ever see me as the emergency bank account. Never the daughter worth showing up for. I took a deep breath. Then I said quietly, "Don't call me for money again." And for the first time in my life, I hung up on my father. Welcome back to Shadow Family Stories. The first voicemail arrived 30 minutes later. "Sarah, don't be immature. Call me back." Then another. "You know your brother needs help." Then mom texted, "Your father is very upset. You embarrassed him." I stared at the message while sitting alone in my apartment surrounded by unopened graduation cards from coworkers. Embarrassed him? He skipped my graduation. But somehow I was the problem. That was the Bennett family tradition. Tyler destroys something. Sarah apologizes for reacting. Not one said congratulations. The next morning, I drove to work exhausted and emotionally numb. I tried focusing on patients, charts, medication schedules, anything except the ache sitting in my chest. But around lunch break, my phone rang again. "Tyler." "Almost." "What?" I answered. "Wow," he said immediately. "No hello. You missed my graduation too. Dad said you're freaking out over that." Freaking out. Another family favorite phrase. I'm not freaking out. I'm hurt. "Sarah, come on. You know how stressed I've been." I leaned against the break room counter. "Your car got repossessed because you stopped making payments. It's complicated." "No. It's actually very simple." Tyler sighed dramatically. "You've always judged me." I nearly dropped the phone. Judged him? This was the man who borrowed money from everyone, quit jobs after 2 weeks, and once sold Dad's expensive lawn equipment for gambling cash. "I'm not giving you $8,000. You have savings. I have responsibilities. You don't even have kids." There it was. The Bennett family hierarchy. Tyler mattered because he had a son. I mattered only when bills were due. The moment I answered, she said, "Your father's out of his mind." I blinked in surprise. "So you heard." "Honey, your mother called me crying last night acting like you committed a crime." I sat down on my couch with coffee still untouched. "What did she say?" I laughed for the first time in days. A real laugh. My throat tightened instantly. "You kept it." "Of course I kept it. I'm proud of you." For simple words. I'm proud of you. I nearly cried hearing them from someone who actually meant them. Aunt Linda had watched everything growing up. She saw the different rules. Tyler got excuses. I got expectations. When Tyler failed algebra twice, Dad blamed teachers. When I got a B+ in chemistry, Dad asked why it wasn't an A. "You know what bothers me most?" Aunt Linda said quietly. "They don't even realize how much they lean on you." I stared out my apartment window. She's right, I admitted. "I think they only call me when something goes wrong." "Honey," she said gently, "people get comfortable standing on the shoulders of responsible daughters." That sentence hit me hard. Because it explained my entire life. Responsible daughters don't get celebrated. They get used. "Did Mom tell you about the money?" I asked. "She said your father demanded $8,000. Demanded is the correct word. Sarah, listen carefully to me. Tyler's problems are not your retirement plan." I smiled sadly. Sometimes I think if I disappeared tomorrow, they'd only notice when bills were due. Don't say that. But it's true. There was silence for a moment. Then Aunt Linda asked softly, "Do you remember your 16th birthday?" I frowned. "Barely." "I remember," she said bitterly. "Your father canceled your dinner because Tyler got suspended from school." My chest tightened. I had forgotten that. I looked at the transfer screen. $8,000. Nearly the exact amount left on my student loans. Something inside me settled permanently. "No." Dad stared at me coldly. "If you refuse this family now, don't expect us to be there later." The threat hung heavily in the room. And suddenly I realized something almost funny. They already weren't there. Not emotionally. Not financially. Not even physically. They missed my graduation. What exactly was I losing? Dad stormed toward the door. You'll regret this. Before leaving, he turned one final time. You think you succeeded on your own? Family sacrificed for you too. The door slammed behind him. I stood alone in silence. Then I whispered into the empty apartment. No, Dad. I succeeded despite you. And for the first time in my life, I truly believed it. 2 weeks passed without hearing from anyone in my family. No calls. Nothing. The silence hurt more than I expected. Even toxic love leaves withdrawal symptoms. I threw myself into work to avoid thinking about it. Long shifts at the hospital helped because sick patients didn't have time for emotional games. But on Thursday evening, everything changed. I was leaving work when my coworker Denise stopped me near the parking garage. I froze. Yes. She hesitated. I think my cousin knows him. A strange feeling crawled up my spine. From where? Denise looked uncomfortable. The casino. I stared at her. What casino? There's one about 40 minutes outside town. She lowered her voice. Apparently your brother owes people money. Cold spread through my chest. Mom spotted me first. Mom burst into tears of relief. Her eyes briefly shifted toward Tyler. Interesting. For the first time in my life, he looked old. Not intimidating. Not commanding. Just tired. When Mom and Tyler stepped out to talk to billing, I stayed behind awkwardly. Dad stared at the ceiling. You came. The words sounded almost surprised. He nodded slowly. Silence filled the room. Then, quietly, he asked, Do you hate me? The question shattered something inside me. And beneath my anger was grief. Could have fooled me. I sat down carefully beside the bed. You know what hurts most? He didn't answer. Your parents haven't heard from him in 3 days. Cold fear crawled through my chest. Tyler had been attending gambling recovery meetings for months. Dad proudly mentioned every milestone like they were rebuilding a broken bridge one plank at a time. But addiction doesn't disappear quietly. Sometimes it waits. Dad looked down immediately. And for the first time in my life, I saw guilt on my father's face without defensiveness attached to it. After intake finished, Tyler stood awkwardly near the entrance. I guess this is it. Mom hugged him tightly, crying again. A large banner read, Master's Degree Celebration, better late than never. My eyes filled instantly. Tables overflowed with food. Coworkers stood beside relatives. Even old neighbors attended. And unlike my actual graduation, every seat was full. We know it's late, she said tearfully. But you deserve to be celebrated properly. I couldn't speak. Dad walked toward me carrying a wrapped box. Inside was a leather-bound photo album. Page after page contained pictures from my life. Nursing school. My first apartment. Hospital awards. Conference speeches. Graduation photos. On the final page was a handwritten note from Dad. We missed an important day. We will regret that forever. But we will not miss the rest. Love. Dad. I cried openly then. Not because everything painful disappeared, but because healing had finally become visible. Later that evening, Dad tapped his glass gently for attention. I spent many years believing strength meant silence, he said publicly. But silence can wound people too. The backyard became completely quiet. My daughter achieved incredible things while I focused too much attention elsewhere. His voice shook slightly. And I want everyone here to know something clearly. He turned toward me. Tears rolled down my face instantly. Because sometimes the words you needed most arrive late. But late doesn't always mean meaningless. As the party continued around us, Aunt Linda hugged me tightly and whispered, Looks like they finally learned how to show up. And standing there surrounded by laughter, music, and people who truly saw me, I realized something beautiful. I no longer needed my family's approval to feel worthy. That still mattered.